Episode 10 opens with a scene where Ju pleads with her father, "Please help me." Han-guk replies, "Very well. Who is it you wish to save, yourself, or Lien?" Ju names Lien. Her father responds, "In that case, divorce him. Once he realizes that my leverage, my weakness, is gone, he will have nothing left to lose, and he will fight back." Ju then asks, "And what if I were to say that I want to save myself instead?" Han-guk's answer remains the same. Even in that scenario, you must still divorce him. We then see a scene where Ju approaches Lien and embraces him. Lien asks, "What happened? Is this a gift?" Ju replies, "Let's get a divorce. From now on, we will go our separate ways." Lien asks, "What brought this on so suddenly?" Ju explains, "Our company is about to undergo an audit soon, that is why my father fell ill. I worked incredibly hard to acquire everything I have, and now, I refuse to lose it all so easily. I married you solely to secure my position as the heir. But now, you have nothing left to offer me." Lien asks, "Did something happen? Did Iron say something to you?" But Ju shouts back, "No matter what he says to me, that is none of your business. Besides, I've already told you once before, I have no master. So, I do not fear him." Lien pleads with Ju, "Please, don't do this." Ju replies, "You promised that you wouldn't keep me bound here forever, so let me go." Later that night, we see Lien entering his brother's quarters, where he breaks down in tears. He recalls scenes from the past, remembering all the conversations they had shared in that very room. Lien speaks to his brother, saying, "Sister-in-law believes in you. You need to stand by her side." But her brother laughs and asks, "Do you really think so? I have my doubts about it." Lien tells his brother, "You are a coward." His brother replies, "Be that as it may, just don't end up like me." The next morning, we see Lien hard at work. Just then, Ju arrives. She asks Lien, "Were you working all night?" He simply nods in affirmation. Ju says nothing further for the moment. Lien looks at her and asks, "What is it you want to say?" Ju replies, "I want to go to the counseling hall so I can discuss my divorce there. Please grant me permission to do so." Lien says, "Very well. Do as you please, it is entirely up to you." Outside, Hae-young speaks with Choi, exclaiming, "What is this I'm hearing? They are getting a divorce. How did all of this happen so suddenly?" Choi recalls the day when Ju had returned to her father's side. While speaking with him in the car, she had declared, "I want to divorce him, because by doing so, I will be able to help him." Hae-young presses him, "Tell me, what exactly happened?" But Choi simply replies, "I don't know." Just then, Lien calls Hae-young, asking her to attend to a certain task. In the next scene, everyone gathers in the counseling hall. Sang-won is about to make an announcement, but Ju interrupts him to present her own statement. She declares, "We wish to get a divorce. The public currently believes that I set fire to the event venue and that I was poisoned, however, I was merely pretending. Therefore, strip me of all my powers, and once that is done, I will submit myself to a full investigation." She looks toward Jong-yu and asks, "I am correct in saying this, am I not?" He nods in agreement. Ju then tells them, Lien bears no fault in any of this. Once everything is resolved, he will retain his position. Meanwhile, elsewhere, we see Ju and Da-young approaching the media, a situation in which Ju appears visibly nervous. Da-young insists, "You simply must do this, for Ju herself requested it. You are the only one capable of carrying it out." Later, Ju takes the stage and begins to speak about the contract regarding their marriage. He was doing this, in part, to divert the public's attention toward himself. He recounts how Ju and Lien had fallen madly in love. "I was fully aware of all of this beforehand," he states. "But as you all know, no romance lasts forever. That is why I personally had that contract drafted, to ensure my sister's protection. Therefore, I wish to issue a warning. I reserve the right to file defamation charges against anyone who chooses to view this situation through a malicious or distorted lens." Having delivered this statement, he departs. Meanwhile, Da-young sends a message to Ju, confirming, "We have successfully completed the task here." Young-woo turns his gaze toward Lien and asks Ju, "Does Lien consent to this? What is his stance on the matter?" Just then, 2 or 3 men enter, carrying a set of garments. We soon realize exactly what these garments are. Lian is then instructed to take his seat upon the throne. He has issued a formal royal decree, commanding that this be done. However, Sang-won objects, declaring, this cannot be allowed to happen. Lian challenges him, asking, are you daring to defy a royal command? Sang-won offers no reply. Lian then recalls the events leading up to this moment, how he had managed to orchestrate it all. He remembers a scene in his brother's private quarters, where he discovered an outfit inside a box, a garment his brother had gifted him long ago. Later, he had approached his brother and declared, I want my throne back. Now, returning to the present scene, Lian walks out. Hee-ju follows him and stops him in his tracks. Lian turns to her and asks, what is it now? You said you wanted a divorce because you felt you had lost. Perhaps you thought I wouldn't be able to protect you. But the most important thing of all was that you didn't believe in me. He had walked away, deeply upset. Meanwhile, Iron is informed of what Lian has done. She flies into a rage, throwing objects around and demanding to know how this could have happened, and so suddenly, at that. Why wasn't I told about this? And how could my son have given his permission for it? She declares, I am going to see him. However, we see that Lian has locked himself inside his room. He refuses to open the door. His mother shouts, pleading with him to open it, but receives no response. Eventually, she orders a court lady, break down the door, or else set this place on fire. Inside, Lian covers his ears with his hands. He recalls a memory, the scene where his mother was arguing with his father back when the palace caught fire, an argument he had overheard in its entirety. Just then, Jingyu approaches Iron and says, calm down. Let's sit and talk. He leads her inside. Iron turns to Jingyu and asks, how could this happen? You know that if Lian ascends the throne here, if he becomes king, then Hee-ju will be bound to remain here forever. You won't get her back. Jingyu replies, yes, I know. That is precisely why we must stop him. Lian has already rejected the request once he has done so 3 times, he is free to ascend the throne, for that is the rule. But you must stop either Lian or your own son before that happens. As for the case regarding Hee-ju's poisoning, I will close it. Iron stares at him and asks, are you threatening me? Jingyu steps closer and says, just get to work. Meanwhile, we see Hee-ju in her own room. She approaches Ha-young and asks, where is Lian? Ha-young reveals that he has left. Hee-ju asks, he left. How could he just leave like that? She points out, he had refused to obey the royal decree as well. He shouldn't have gone alone. Ha-young tells her not to worry. Then she asks, but are you really going to divorce him? Hee-ju offers no reply. After Ha-young leaves, Hee-ju breaks down in tears. Later, Hee-ju tries calling Lian, but he doesn't pick up. We then see Lian. He has driven to a specific spot where he stands gazing out over the entire city. Hee-ju recalls several past moments, specifically, a time when Lian had told her, I am going to ascend the throne. I know how the public will criticize me for it, but I trust that you will understand why I am doing this. Meanwhile, Ha-young is talking to Choi and suggests, let's go out and hang out for a bit. He asks, but what about Lian? Ha-young then recalls a scene where Lian had called her earlier to let her know his whereabouts, adding that he would return to his private residence later. So, she turns to Choi and asks, why didn't you tell me this sooner? Ha-young retorts, well, you didn't tell me earlier that Hee-ju wants to divorce Lian. The two then head out to hang out together. They end up by the Han River, where they share some drinks. Ha-young turns to Choi and says, you asked me what I like, didn't you? To be honest, I really enjoy sitting by the Han River and having a drink. What about you? How do you like it? Choi replies, I like it. Ha-young teases him, which part? The Han River, the alcohol, or me? Blushing shyly, Choi answers, I like all of it. Later that night, we see Hee-ju standing outside. She repeatedly tries calling and messaging Lian, but receives no response whatsoever. Jin-sik is standing behind her. She witnesses this behavior and remarks that, on one occasion, Lian was doing the exact same thing right here, sending you messages and making calls, yet you didn't reply at all. I know that you two care deeply for one another, and I have faith in you. The palace gates are closing soon. You can go and meet him. Hee-ju asks, really? And Jin-sik confirms with a, yes. Shortly thereafter, Ju rushes away from the scene. She gets into her car, sends a text message to Lian, and claims, "I'm sick." Lian replies, "I'm currently at my private residence. I'll come to the palace tomorrow." However, in the very next scene, we see that Ju has arrived at his residence. Lian looks at her and asks, "What are you doing here?" "I told you I would come tomorrow." He adds, "You said you were sick." At this point, Ju makes a confession, "I like you." She then embraces him. She looks into his eyes, kisses him, and asks, "Do you not like this?" Lian replies, "I do." The two then share another kiss and become intimate. Ju also reveals, "I asked for a divorce. I thought that by doing so, I would be able to protect you." The scene shifts to the next morning, where Ju wakes up, only to find that Lian is no longer there. Some time later, Lian returns. He looks at Ju and asks, "What's wrong? You stay right here. I have to go to the palace. I have already declined the royal decree once. I must decline it 3 times in total, only after that can I accept it and ascend the throne. That is the established protocol there." Ju says, "You told me that you wanted to protect the king." But Lian corrects her, "No, I want to protect my nephew." He then begins to speak about the past, recounting a specific memory to her, a moment when he was with his nephew, and the two of them were playing a game together. But in the nearby room was Irene, who was shouting at her husband. We have already seen this scene before. In the next scene, we see Lian entering his room. Just then, Jinsik arrives carrying a box. She tells him that his brother sent it. The box is opened, revealing the king's official ceremonial robes. It becomes clear that Lian's brother wants him to ascend the throne. However, Choi suddenly arrives and informs Lian that a crisis has arisen. The next scene reveals the nature of that crisis. A fire breaks out, and Lian's brother loses his life. Back in the present, Lian weeps and confides in Ju, saying, "I was too late. I couldn't save my brother. I desire the throne solely to protect my nephew. Yet, the public will perceive me as being greedy for power." Ju replies, "Perhaps you are greedy." She then stands tall and asserts, "Don't worry. From now on, I will be right by your side." In the following scene, the two arrive at the palace. Lian is informed that Iron wishes to speak with him. Later, Lian goes to meet Iron. Iron lashes out at him, demanding that he relinquish the throne and accept the imperial decree. However, Lian refuses, stating, "I will not do that." Iron challenges him, asking, "How did my son end up handing the throne over to you? You must have poisoned his mind." Lian replies, "I have indeed done so. My only objective is to protect him, and it is fortunate that he abdicated the throne of his own accord. You will not have to pay the price for the sins you committed in the past." Iron begins to recall scenes from the past, specifically, what her father had done to her. She is back in her school days, playing the piano. However, her father had decreed that she must marry a certain young man, who happened to be Lian's brother. At school, Iron sat gazing intently at a photograph of Lian's brother. Just then, Lian arrived to meet her. Upon seeing him, she offered him a smile. Iron's first love was Lian. Now, speaking in the present, Iron recounts, "Think of all the things I sacrificed just to get here. You should do the same. Can't you give up the throne, just this once?" Lian refuses and instructs a court lady that Iron is not to leave her quarters for 3 days, she must remain confined within her rooms, and no one is permitted to visit her. That night, we see Sangwon calling his daughter. He informs her that Lian is set to become king, but warns, "We cannot let that happen. If he ascends the throne, he will destroy us." Iron replies, "There is nothing I can do, I am currently confined here for 3 days. Sangwon assures her, "Don't worry, I will come to visit you." However, Iron counters, "That's impossible, visits have been strictly forbidden. I think we should just stop now. Besides, Lian promised that I wouldn't have to pay for my past sins." Sangwon dismisses this, saying, "He is lying. How can you possibly believe a word he says? Don't worry, I have a plan." Iron asks her father, "What are you going to do?" But he does not reveal his intentions. Some time later, Sangwon is informed that he has a visitor. He goes to see who it is, and we discover that it is Jongyu. In the next scene, we are back in the palace, where Lian is being prepared for his coronation, dressed in the king's official ceremonial robes. Meanwhile, we turn our attention to Iron. Lan arrives to visit her. She screams at her son, demanding, "What are you doing here now? Why did you give the throne away to him? Do you have any idea what I had to do, what I sacrificed, just to place you on that throne?" But Lan begins to weep. He shouts back at his mother, "Yes. I've known all along. I heard everything you said that day when you were screaming at father." Upon hearing this, Iron is left completely stunned. He approaches his mother and says, "Please forgive me. I have disappointed you." She embraces her son tightly. We then see Jong Yu, who is standing outside the palace. He sends a message to Lien. Meanwhile, we see Irene in her room. She recalls her father's words, specifically his claim that he had a plan. She senses that something is amiss. She tries to call Lien, wanting to tell him everything, but Lien does not pick up. However, Lien does see a message from Jong Yu, which reads, "Come to the counseling hall before heading to the throne hall. I need to speak with you." Ju is working with Choi, asking him, "Once I become queen, will people like me?" Choi nods affirmatively, replying, "It's not as if everyone here likes Lien, they will come to like you as well." But Ju dismisses the idea, saying, "Forget it. I know that no one likes me. I have nothing but haters." Taezu calls Ju and asks, "Tell me what to do next, should we admit father to the hospital?" Ju refuses, asking in return, "Are you at home? Is father with you?" Taezu replies that he is not. Ju then says, "All right, I'm coming over to you. We'll talk face to face." Later that night, as Ju is leaving the palace, she encounters Sangwon, who greets her respectfully. Ju pauses to look at him for a moment, but just then, two loud explosions rock the counseling hall. Terrified, Ju rushes over to investigate, where she finds Hae-young standing outside, already trembling with fear. She asks Hae-young, "What about Lien?" Hae-young replies, "Lien is still inside." The episode ends at this point. So guys, we'll see you in episode 10. Until then, bye bye.